like to eat breakfast before I work out, so I'm just gonna eat a banana and drink some water and then head to the gym. Can't forget a mask, and it's a little chilly outside, so I'm gonna wear a jacket. Now we're ready to go. Now that I'm back from the gym, I showered, did my hair a little bit, and I'm going to eat some breakfast. Like a true Bostonian, we have Dunkin'.
Kid, that's me. I'm like the mayor of Dunkin's. This is the face of Dunkin' Donuts right now.
My next exam is radiology. It is on Friday, September 11th. So I've been studying for this a little bit differently because our professors have been giving us quizzes for each lecture. So I find that really helpful. I haven't made questions like I did for the other two exams that we took. We have a TA session on Tuesday, so hopefully that will give me more insight on what to expect for the exam as well. The TA said that this isn't up here memorization, it's more concept-based. So that always worries me because it's a little bit easier to memorize things for me than it is to be able to know the concepts. So I'm not sure what to expect. I did get a little bit behind this week, so my goal is to catch up. That way I can attend the live lectures for next week and be back on track. So I need to look at all the radio lectures, and then we do have endocrine lectures that I need to look at, as well as orthodontics. I need to make sure that I'm caught up there because that is in 2 weeks. The way that I study is always evolving, but right now what seems to be working is either attending the live lectures or watching them, you know, if they're pre-recorded, or if I didn't catch the Zoom lecture, to watch it later. So first, passive information, watching it in person. And then second, passive information. In the previous classes, I would go through the slides and read them and make questions for every slide as I went along. So that's my second pass of the information. And then my third pass of the information usually comes from some form of a review, either a TA review or a professor review, sometimes both. So that would be my third and or fourth pass of the information. And then after that, I would try to look over the questions that I made. I print them out and I write out the answers, and from there I can see, okay, what am I not grasping and retaining, as well as what do I know really well. So I try and find out what my weak points are, and I go back to those lectures or go back to that, you know, those few slides of information, and I try and find a way to memorize. The night before exams, my friends and I, we always do a review session between the 3 or 4 of us, and we go over every single slide on a TA review or the lectures, and we find out what we think is important, what the professors emphasized, maybe if there's something tricky to memorize, how we memorized it, just things like that, trying to give each other our little last bits of information to help each other, because the way I look at things is not always going to be the same as my friends. So it's always helpful seeing what they feel is important, and we can kind of collaborate and share our knowledge. The vast part of my memorization definitely comes like the night or 2 nights before exams. That's where my brain like gets into high gear and it just soaks everything in as much as it can. I don't know how to explain it. That's just, I guess, what my body does under stress. Some of my friends, they are very good at just cramming a night to 2 nights before exams, and that works for them. They do well. For me, I do need long-term exposure, repeated passes at the information to let it sink in. And especially if I don't understand something, physio, then that is when I know that I really need to focus on that. Now I want to briefly talk about how I studied last year and why I don't think that worked as well. I just want to put this out there that I'm not telling you how you should study. I'm telling you what has worked for me and what I've learned along the way, and just giving you, if anything, alternative methods to study for different classes. One thing I want to mention before I talk about how I studied is that in dental school, you get PowerPoints, and that is pretty much all you need. Like, there are very rarely any times where I need to go and look at a textbook or go on YouTube. I mean, that is just for my supplemental gain. For the most part, the professors, they teach you what you need. It's on the slide. They test from the slides most likely, and you're good to go. So that is why I find it important to watch the lectures or watch pre-recorded lectures, is because professors, they like to give hints. You know, if they're emphasizing things over and over again, you're like, maybe I should know this for the exam. They've been saying it so many times. Better safe than sorry. I'm not saying every time a professor emphasizes something that they're gonna test on it, because I've also seen that where they're like, oh my gosh, they talked about it so much and they never asked a question on it, because you do see that too. But at the end of the day, if they're talking about something, they do want you to know it. It's important, and that is something that's never changed. I watched lectures last year and I watched them this year, and it does help me for the most part. I'm not saying that I retain everything that I learned in a lecture, because I'm not an auditory learner, but it does help me if they say a story. I'm like, oh wait, I remember them talking about this and their little anecdote with this, and that helps me remember it. Or they had a mnemonic, I'm like, oh, that helped me remember it. So what I mainly did last year was I outlined. And this was great for keeping me engaged in lectures as I was watching them, because I was trying to annotate little things when professors said extra things that were on the slide, or they were trying to supplement something and say, hey, this is maybe important, you should know this. So it did keep me engaged with the lecture, but at the same time it was so time consuming. Most of our PowerPoints, they're about 50 slides and they can be up to 100 slides. So depending on how long the lecture was, this could be very time consuming. I did have a group of friends where we did split up the lectures and we still outlined, but it still was not proving as powerful and efficient for me in terms of memorizing. So I didn't want to keep doing that into second year. So it's important recognizing when you know something works, but you know it's not what is working the most efficiently for you. Do flashcards work for me? Yes. Can I use Quizlet? Sometimes, but it's not how I'm going to retain information best. I mean, so that's all I can really say. That I really outlined, and then I would study off those outlines last year. That was how I studied, and it didn't really work. And I can say that making questions makes me more of an active learner when I'm going over the lectures, and that is so important. So for me, writing questions and having review sessions with my friends, that is like the game changer. That's what helps me retain the most information. This may not work for everyone, but this is what works for me. And I'm going to continue this method because right now I've taken 2 exams and I've done pretty good. Haven't failed anything, so I'm just going to continue on this track. Right now I'm not studying a ton. I'm probably studying at least 2 hours a day, and when it leads up to exams it's definitely more like 6, 7, but I'm not killing myself. I don't like to be super stressed, and I don't need to get all A's. I have mentioned that before, so I'm just trying to do my best and relax when I want. I like to watch shows, and I'm currently watching Quantico, so you know, I want to make sure that I'm giving myself me time. I just want to add that I did think about it, and even though our professor did give us questions, I realized I still should probably stick to what works. I just explained to you why it works. And so I will make questions on my second pass of the information, which is today. So I'll start writing questions because it does help me, and even if I don't think any of my questions will be asked, it'll still tell me where my gaps in knowledge is. Don't know what's correct. Okay, so I have this set up and I'm going to start typing questions. And I have the lecture right here on my iPad. I'm not going to do a question for every slide because there are a lot of slides. I do 3 slides per page. So I'm going to look at the learning objectives and try and formulate questions based on that. And with that, I will end this video. Please like it if you've enjoyed the video, and subscribe down below if you're new here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!